time doing it. But we've been both really busy here, and that's why we haven't been able to get to the High School Crunch Time podcast in a few weeks here. Now we did dismiss. Actually, we did miss the state championship show for the football one just because of Thanksgiving. But a huge congratulations to Bayport and also Notre Dame Academy taking home state championships in D1 and D3. And then, obviously I think there's another team near and dear around the area. I think was it Wrightstown that took it home?
I'd have to double check, but I think that's right.
I think so too. So big congratulations to all those teams. We did not forget about you. We just had other obligations, including Thanksgiving, and then last week. I've actually last week I just got caught up in something, and then I had a cold earlier this week, and finally we are past it. I believe a little bit. I mean, it's cold season, flu season. What are you gonna do? Unfortunately, not much you can. But let's get down to it. Now we have our first winter show, ladies and gentlemen. We're doing kind of a beta testing here tonight, just see how it runs, see how things feel, see if we like it, and we're gonna go either with it or we're gonna, maybe change things up as well. But yes, we should have a fun show nonetheless. And Dom D'Angelo's all ready for it, I'm sure, as he always is, and ready to go any time of the day, any year. Dom D'Angelo is the man and the voice in the NDA broadcast, and that's always something that's got to be noted. How's broadcasting been with the high school sports going to the winter sessions now here?
Well, it's been good. It's been good. It's been busy, which, instead of having one game a week, you have multiple. So your days become longer, but it's all good. It's all good. I have a pretty cool opportunity with a company I've worked with this past couple of years to up the quality of our production. So things have been good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you got multiple sports here. I don't know if you do hockey yet. I know a long while ago Notre Dame didn't want the hockey recordings, but that was okay. Might be a good opportunity to get into that. But we're going to talk about that first. As you can tell by the background here, Dom, there's some hockey news. Tritons take down the Sheboygan team 8-1 last night at the Cornerstone Community Ice Center. And Notre Dame continues to roll. They only have one loss on the season, and I believe that's to
Stevens
Stevens
Point.
Point.
Yep.
And obviously it was Trip. Now Robluski, I believe his last name is. He had the hot hand. Is that correct, Dom?
I believe so. I know he had the hot hand. But yeah, let's just go with Trip. Trip with a hat trick. How about that?
We'll go Trip with a hat trick. Trip with the Hattie. If you do know how to pronounce his name, we do apologize. We're new to this stuff and we're just having fun doing it. And then he had a hat trick actually in the contest. Drew Heel, he was also, and Drew Atkinson both had two tallies in the contest for the Tritons, giving them that 8-1 lead. And Notre Dame, obviously known for their good hockey presence at the school, and I think you know that best just going to school, knowing the hockey team, that sort of thing. They've been good for a lot of years, and they continue to lead the conference this season. And I mean, really just look dominant. Dom, what's the feeling right now with the hockey team at school, and like what sort of things are you noticing happening with that team?
Yeah, they're just a model of consistency, I think, is the best kind of way to describe it. They had the coaching change last year, and they still found a way to win a state championship. So the vibes, I guess you could say, are high with this team. I know they were pretty disappointed with that one loss to Stevens Point, with how good Stevens Point is. They lost that game 5-2, but other than that, they've had some good wins. They beat Superior 4-2 earlier this year, and then Sheboygan yesterday. And they are playing Brookfield tonight when we're recording this on the 14th. So things are good with them. They've, like you mentioned, they've been good for such a long time, and the names and numbers may change, but kind of the production and the quality of play on the ice really has stayed the same for, however many years it's been now.
Yeah, and I mean, they're always been a really good team, really solid squad. Really very much focused on the game and getting into the scoring column. That's one thing Notre Dame does. They don't get too much into the analyticals of hitting and that sort of thing. Just the nonsense that happens outside of the rink and all that other good jazz. But I mean, off to a red hot start. Give them a lot of credit for what they're doing. They continue to do it again with a new coach and things changing, new players each season. They continue to be on top. So Notre Dame with a big credit here from High School Crunch Time on ESPN Sports. And Dom, it's got to be nice to see your team's doing well once again. from fall to winter in that transition. And I mean, it's got to be a little bit weird, but it's got to be just nice to see success happening in the hallways at Notre Dame Academy.
Yeah, I think that's true for sure. It's been kind of interesting with some of these multi-sport athletes. Like there are a couple, football guys that maybe go to hockey or basketball or something like that. So it's been kind of an interesting transition to see, so, like, kind of how they've had to adjust because I think it's mandatory they get like 2 weeks off before they start practicing or something like that. Um, but it's credit to those guys who do it because I sure as heck couldn't when I tried as a freshman. But like you said, success is something that just creates culture. Winning builds culture, and so that's been true for football this year, and that was well documented on this show. And then to start the season, the hockey guys have kept up with that as well. Some like you said, eight scores is nothing to
Shake a
frown at.
stick at,
So
yeah.
yeah. So and it came from all different angles, like you said at the top. So just seeing that level of success is really a credit to this coaching staff, and it's a credit to these guys for being both physically and mentally ready to take on that challenge because there is that mental aspect of it when you're supposed to be good and there's all these expectations on you, and give these guys credit. They're able to do it seemingly every year.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think that's part of the coaching culture, even with the transition. They've maintained a very good high level of consistency. Now, looking at Notre Dame continuing through the week, because we are recording on a Saturday, they do have Ashwaubenon, De Pere, and Madison Edgewood, um, actually to round out their next three games. Now, these are not necessarily easy games. Obviously, Ashwaubenon's actually playing. I believe they're 4-4 right now. De Pere's looking really good. I think they got one or two losses, and Edgewood I haven't gotten a little research on, but I'm guessing they're going to come out with the wins on all three of these games. Notre Dame hockey just seems to add to the W column and nothing in the L, and just consistently does it. But how do you think they fare in these games?
Like you said, I think pretty well. Looking at it, De Pere is 4-3 when I last checked. Edgewood is 3-2. So winning records for sure. And Brookfield, who they're playing tonight, is 3-0 on the year. So definitely no slight of competition. Um, they should. I think they are on, road games. A lot of these games are played at the Cornerstone Community Center, so both home and road games are played there, which is kind of a. What do you think about that? It's kind of an interesting thing to like. Is it really an away game if you're playing the same spot every day?
So we always took it as everything's home at Cornerstone, no matter who it is. The only thing you do is you change benches on the other side. You go to the away bench, a little bit different of line changes. Nothing real spectacular. You go in your locker room, you're doing everything normal, and
Yeah.
you're just playing your game and seeing where you can take it. But yeah, so I mean it's actually kind of nice just to have everybody kind of in one place, because then you're not traveling all over the place. I guess that does take away from the road atmosphere, but
Sure.
there is still like with the fans area, I guess there's a little bit of road because it'll be like Notre Dame boosters collecting all the money and that sort of thing, and you get the Notre Dame fan section and the home section, so that's a little
For
bit
sure.
different too. So I guess it's a little bit different of a vibe, but it's not really that big of a deal.
Yeah, yeah. So, not the travel aspect, I think, is the big thing there, especially like we talked about during football season, some long road trips or long bus rides, different things. So, they're staying at Cornerstone this next week, with the exception of when they play against Edgewood on Saturday the 21st. So, they'll be in the area. They should have pretty good week, assuming things go to plan, assuming they stay healthy. Because I remember last year that was a little bit of an issue with guys being banged up in the middle part of the season. So if they stay healthy, they should be pretty set for at least a foreseeable future.
Yeah, and I mean it's pretty early in the season yet. Only a couple games under their belt, but I guess they're going to continue to roll. And a team that hasn't been rolling is actually my alma mater, and that's Bayport, and they are currently struggling right now to get things going under the new coaching staff of Derek Donahue. Mike Buchan decided to go with the Ice Bears after a number of years of coaching the Bayport Pirates. But they are currently in the UP right now doing their UP weekend up in obviously the Upper Peninsula. And they take on, actually, they took on Hancock last night and lost 4-2. And then now tonight they have Houghton. So Hancock and Houghton, a little bit, if you didn't know, Dom, they play a little bit more physical hockey up there in the UP. A little bit different brand than what you're seeing around the Green Bay area. A little more skill wise around here, and
Mhm.
it's going to be something that's a little bit different. But they've struggled out of the gate. I think they're 1-5 out of the gate with the slow start. And Houghton tonight comes with early success, 4-1 from as far as I could find. And I mean, it's going to be a tough contest for them. I think tonight they're in the dome up in the UPs because they do the UP road trip kind of like Notre Dame does theirs over to the state of Michigan.
Yep.
And the Houghton trip is always a good one, but it's early in the season and it's a lot of physical hockey up there in the UP. So it's something you got to get the bones tested a little bit. You get a little rattled around, and you're going to get a couple home recalls up there in the UP that you can count on that. But so I mean, any thoughts on the UP trip or anything like that? I think it's kind of cool that hockey does that. They kind of take trips and then they just go like to different areas.
For sure. I've always been a fan of that since I kind of started paying attention to high school hockey. I think the road trips are fun. I think they build camaraderie, which is a cool thing. Obviously not off to the greatest of starts for Bayport, a 4-2 loss. Um, you mentioned that coaching change. What do you think has been? Have you watched any of their games yet this year?
I haven't gotten out, but I know from talking to a couple players, the vibe's a little different right now. I've known Donahue um, a little bit, not real well, not like Buchan. I knew Buchan pretty well, but I definitely think there's a little bit different vibe in the locker room right now, just with the transition, not really kind of meshing together. Obviously, maybe some conflicting heads. I did talk to one player over the summer, and he was really unsure of how the team was going to look, which isn't a good sign moving into the season because he's like, yeah, we don't know right now. Like it's going to be up in the air. And given the 1-5 start, I mean, obviously you can't say that's a real hot start off the track. So you got to find a couple wins here, hopefully, or find one at least in Houghton after losing to Hancock 4-2. But I mean, I guess it's a coaching change. You have to expect it. At some time, I guess I get it. It's not always the most comfortable thing. They're going to be changing how rotations go, lineups go, but it should be fairly similar considering he was an assistant coach with the team for a number of years, and he's continuing to carry the brand around. It's not like some totally new guy came in and threw everything up in the air and just cut everything out.
Mm-hmm.
But we are seeing kind of the I got to get out to a game now. I've been really bad. They've been playing a lot of away games. Get out to a game though. I mean, that's a lousy excuse. Just to see what's going on, how the rotations are going, how the lines look, and what sort of the problem is. Because nowadays, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but nowadays, like so in my day, we played a lot more. Like when I was in high school, it was a lot more physical of a game.
Yeah.
Yep, it was less hand skills and trick wise in front of
Mm-hmm.
the net. It was more you're gonna put a body on a body, and a couple guys are gonna be sore after the game, but you're gonna be all right. So it was more, I would say, like a less crafty game, but it was more passing orientated. Um, and that's something that, like good teams like Notre Dame, they keep going and they pass like crazy. I'm seeing now, like at least last year, there was a little bit more of single man puck control. Not going to call it puck hogging, but it was just like it seemed like they didn't want to pass and wanted to look for that other man, which is always a bad thing because you want to make the other team skate a couple extra steps in order to get them wore out a little bit. And that's why Notre
Mm-hmm.
Dame does it so well because they consistently keep that passing game going no matter who the talented player is. And even like when the Polshaks were with Notre Dame, they continued to keep like a very formidable passing game. And those guys were both good scorers, and then they find their way to the net and score. I believe actually Bryce is playing, or excuse me, Brendan is playing for NMU right now in the D1 level. So a big shout out to him. I saw him score the other day. But yeah, so the Pirates just got to adjust to what they're doing, fix things up a little bit, get the patchwork. I think they can figure it out. Obviously, the coaching change isn't something that you want to go through, but it's something that you have to go through, and they just got to find a way to mesh and get back on board and find that Pirate hockey, which I think they find soon because this week now they have a tough schedule because they do have Sheboygan, and then they got Nina, Hortonville, Menasha. I don't know if you've ever heard of that combo. That's a really good combo. Those three schools, for whatever reason, they've always been good. And then De Pere. So Nina, Menasha, Hortonville doesn't have a loss on the season. They have a tie. They're 5-1-0. And this was the other part about it. So one time, going off track here a little bit, talking about
It's all right.
the broadcasting side of hockey, and Chris and I were working a game, and it was Bayport versus Nina Menasha Hortonville, or Nina Hortonville Menasha, whatever the co-op, and so Nina's the Rockets, Hortonville, and then Menasha's the Bird or Blue Jays, but Hortonville's the Polar Bears, like a perfect
Right.
name for a hockey team. But they carry the Rocket name because Nina's the biggest school, and I'm like, why would you do that? The Polar Bears,
Yeah.
yeah, it feels like a missed opportunity, right? I mean,
Yeah. Agreed.
yeah, the Polar Bears would be just, I mean, you could even call them the P Bears or something like cool like that. Here come your Bears. Yeah, and we joked because the whoever was running their social media got a little upset by that comment, saying that. But I always thought that was a missed opportunity. But they obviously have Sheboygan, who struggled out of the gate as well. Nina Menasha, Hortonville. I don't know if they get a win there. That's gonna be a tough one. De Pere, I'm hoping they keep it close. So in that 3 game stretch against, I think they get a win versus Sheboygan. I think Hortonville Menasha might be a loss for them if I'm being totally unbiased. And then De Pere, I think it's gonna be a tight game, but I think they do end up slipping it. I think they go 1-2 in the season. They just got to find out a way how to. They got to find a way to turn the gears here a little bit before they get going.
I agree with that. Do you think I was, looking at the roster before we started this? They're really young. Like a lot of,
Yep, yep. They lost a lot of seniors.
seniors left. So that I think that also is probably contributing to the slower start with guys having bigger roles this year than they did last year. Because that senior class last year was loaded, man. Like they were super super good. They made it to what round were they in last year? I totally forgot.
Oh,
That the
they
sectional final, right?
yeah, and then they blew a tire, I think, to Notre Dame, and lost in the sectional.
But the point is, they made it to the sectional
Yeah,
final with
yeah,
that
yeah,
group
yeah,
last year. Like
yeah, yep.
super, and they were those. And the other thing you got to remember too, those guys were together for a long, long time. So, you have a number of underclassmen coming in this year, uh, trying to fill those roles. Which the new coach that it takes time, and I think it would have been a little bit different if some of those guys from last year uh, you know, we're still here with the coaching change. It would have made it a little bit easier because the whole culture and the whole vibe would have been, similar because you have that leadership. But, with new guys coming in this year, along with the coaching change, that definitely probably is not assisting to, a 1-5 start.
No, not at all. But now let's take our eyes over to De Pere Voyagers, a really good co-op group, including West De Pere, East. Well, not East De Pere, it's just De Pere apparently. And they don't want to be part of that East-West thing. But De Pere takes on Fond du Lac, winning 3-1. So congratulations to them on that big one. Fond du Lac, a pretty good squad. Landon Smith had the hot hand in the contest with 2 goals, and in the second to give them the lead. It was a 0-0 in the first and then 2 goals in the second. So Landon Smith, big shout out to him. But the Voyagers have Manitowoc United on tap tonight. And Manitowoc really struggles with their hockey program. I mean, just kind of can't figure it out. So do you think they get to win against Manitowoc tonight?
Yeah, I think so. Just kind of looking at a couple numbers here, it looks like the defensively they're really solid. If Landon Smith kind of keeps on this hot streak here, they should be pretty fine. But really, the big numbers is defense. Only 28 shots on goal um for Fond du Lac the other day. So defensively they're doing what they need to do, and also where was this here? Shout out to where was the goalie down here? I was looking at this before we started. Um, Keegan Hendrick, right?
Yep.
Is that the guy? Okay, yeah. Really, really good stuff to begin this year for him.
Yeah, so a lot of shout outs. Again, we're just kind of running this beta test through just to kind of see what happens. Um, But then the Voyagers' next three contests include Notre Dame, Bayport, and Marquette. I got a feeling
Ooh.
they're going to lose to Notre Dame, beat Bayport, and Marquette's going to be a tricky one because they're always tough to judge.
Yep, agreed.
Those Marquette schools are going to be a tough one to judge. But yeah, so the hockey is starting real hot here in the FRCC Dom, and it's going to get more exciting as the season goes on. I do expect us to have a little bit longer of a conversation on it, but now we're going to transition over to our basketball side where we talk about boys and girls basketball here in the FRCC. All right, Dom D'Angelo, we are back here. I mean, not really back, just kind of made that transition here and talking about boys basketball to get things going here. Dom D'Angelo, Johnny Samp on the high school crunch time once again. And we've moved from hockey over to boys basketball here. And I'm going to let you kind of take the reins on this. I know you do a lot of broadcasting with boys basketball, and you probably got a better feel for it. So we'll let you take the reins here, and let's see what we come up with.
So we will kind of continue with the flow of the show. We'll start with those Tritons who played the Preble Hornets last night. They won 76-50. The leading scorer was Andrew Rader, who's off to a really solid start to his senior season, 17 points. Austin Hendricks, the sophomore guard, had 14 and 13 for Adam Guyette, who's another senior on that squad. So Notre Dame is off to a 2-0 start. They beat West De Pere to begin their season and then Preble last night. So solid start for them. Their next game is Sheboygan South coming up on Monday. And the thing that's really stuck out to me with this team is they look, the chemistry wise, look really, really good. They lost only a couple seniors from that squad last year, and they were really starting to mesh at the end of the year when they got to the regional finals before they lost to Plymouth. And that continuity and that chemistry is really shining these first couple of games. Because this was what was most interesting to me talking with Coach Babinski before their first game against West De Pere. They have a number of football guys on the basketball team, kind of what we were talking about with the hockey. And leading into that game against West De Pere, they didn't have a whole practice with the entire team because people were coming back and different things going on. So to get off to a 2-0 start is really, really important for them. They got off to kind of a slow start last year. Um, and just really solid numbers across the board when you look at it with Raiders averaging close to 20, and then you got three other double figure scores to go along with that. So they should, obviously health is key for everybody here, but they should be near the top of the conference with De Pere and a Schwabenon challenging for that FRCC championship this year.
And how's the vibe been for the basketball games? Because I know basketball is always kind of a fun game to go to. Inside the court, it's a little bit louder. There's a little bit more noise. What's been the vibe broadcasting those games like?
It's been really good. The fan support the first two games has been excellent for the guys. Um, there's a certain level of kind of juice around this team. I think because people know that De Pere lost some pieces from last year, mainly Will Hornseth, who graduated. So the atmosphere it also helps that their first couple games have been at home and that streak will continue. They don't go on the road until technically they play Mount Horeb on a neutral site, but their first true road game is at Ashwaubenon, and that's not till the 3rd of January. So they've got some home cooking the first couple weeks of the year, and just the buzz around the team, the energy in the arena when you're there has really been pleasing to see these first couple of games, and that should hopefully continue. They've got two home games coming up in this next week against Sheboygan South and Manitowoc Lincoln, who they've actually had a nice little back and forth with these last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean it's always fun to get those rivalries going, get that home cooking started. Even for somebody who really didn't care about basketball in high school, it was always fun to watch some of the games. Some games were kind of boring, kind of blowouts, but it looks like Notre Dame's getting off to a good start, winning 76-50, and just getting a hot start is always the key in the FRCC because you never know who's going to come up, never know who's going to drop down, and yeah, it's so important to get out there and get that hot start going. Now, a team that didn't have a hot start once again is the Bayport Pirates. They got beaten by the Ashwaubenon Jaguars last night, 81-74, in a contest that really I thought, kind of going into it, just given the history, Ashwaubenon, Bayport, they've had a long kind of tale that's been told many times, and I was thinking at least they would get the win there. Bayport would at least, but unfortunately they did not. Dom, do you have any thoughts on that contest there?
Amari Allen is a stud. That's the number one takeaway from this, from Schwaben 37 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists, and 5 steals. I mean,
That's
this guy's
Caitlin Clark stats.
it legit is like this guy. I think there was a consensus coming into this year in the FRCC about who the best player was, and now it's more than likely Zach Kinziger from De Pere, and he's making it a conversation about who the best player is. Um, and he's got some complementary pieces to go along with him. Elijah Fenner had 16 points, and Kingston Vang had 15. So, but they've got that one stud, and Bayport, especially in the second, it was Bayport. So Bayport led by one at halftime of that one, and then the second half defensively they kind of struggled a bit, but they hit 11 3-pointers. The Pirates did. Maddox Cornett hit 5 of them. He had 15 points. Caden Hendricks had 14 points and 8 assists, with only 2 turnovers. That's pretty solid. And then, a couple other double figure scorers. Connor Gehring had 17 and 6 rebounds. So just not quite enough. They didn't have anybody who could bother Allen on the perimeter. And that's what is going to make it tough for anybody because he's a wing player. He gets to the free throw line a lot. 15 free throws is a huge number for high school, and he only missed one. So, a Schwabenon, people kind of thought they would maybe struggle a little bit because they don't have, Tomashik's anymore. But they came in this year with Allen, and they're just off to a 4-0 start, and those games were at Bayport, at Waupun, at DC Everest, and then Shawano. So they're off to a real good start. They've got Manitowoc Lincoln on the road on Tuesday, and they play their next match. So their first matchup against Notre Dame is on the 3rd, January 3rd, and in that same week they play at De Pere on January 10th. So
That's gonna
that's
be a
going to
tough
be
bump. That's
going to
gonna be a
say
tough hill.
huge week for them. And then later that month in January, they go at West De Pere and at Notre Dame back to back.
Yeah,
So they got a couple tough stretches, but when you got a guy who's that good, you've got a chance every night because he's going to carry you.
yeah, and I mean, there's always been those players like that during my time in school. It was what was his name? Kakana, Jordan, uh,
McCabe
McCabe.
probably.
Yeah, McCabe.
Yep.
He was a year younger than I was, but it was always Jordan McCabe whenever you had Kakana, Galloping Ghost come to town,
Yep.
and you knew what was happening. But basketball's kind of one of those sports where a guy can take over, not necessarily NBA style where a guy can really lead the team, but if he's got a couple components in the high school level who also play defense really well, I mean they can really be a solid squad. They only run 5 guys on the court, and typically there's only a couple subs in the game, so they're going to be out on the court a lot. Compared to like football where it's got to be a couple guys that are really good and you got to have a lot of talent on that line in
Right.
order to win. But yeah, so the Pirates get off to a bumpy start against Ashwaubenon. Obviously, you said, but you also talked about a man from De Pere, Kinzinger, and they had a hot start too. They beat Southwest 98-32. They're getting things rolling, aren't they?
Sure are, and it's coming from all angles over there. So Zach Kinziger had 19 points in that one. Ron Domofsky had 17, and Bryce Gregory had 22. So they were the favorite coming into this year to win the conference, and they're showing no signs of slowing down from where they've left off a season ago. The question with them is going to be, do they have enough size to compete? But they have so much talent on the perimeter that maybe they can neutralize that effect. So it's going to be, it's kind of their conference to win if we're looking at it. They have Sheboygan North on Tuesday coming up, and then they're at Bayport on Friday on the 20th.
That should be a
So
good showdown. Maybe High School
uh,
Crunch Time makes a visit. Um,
oh, I
well,
wouldn't
no,
mind that.
you can, I can.
Well,
Um,
I was gonna say you could.
yeah, I could. certainly go back to the old field house and see what's going on. Now we move on. Manitowoc loses to Sheboygan North 41-70. Not a good showing for the Ships trying to get things going against Sheboygan North.
No, just not too much to speak of here. I mean, Brain Steinbecker had a good game, 17 points, but they're off to a 2-2 start. Kind of up and down. Just nothing really sticks out with this team. I mean, they beat Plymouth on opening night, but then they got crushed by Oshkosh North 74-53. Came back with a nice win over Kingdom Prep Lutheran, but then, like you said, they dropped their first conference game against Sheboygan North. So they're playing right now as we speak, I believe, in the Grafton tournament against Kenosha Bradford, and then they get to welcome in the Jaguars on Tuesday the 17th, and then I will see them on Friday the 20th. So, you know, like I said, they're kind of just a middling team from at least to start out. Now, Brain Steinbecker's off to a great start. He's averaging 21 points, but other than that, Micah Kubish is averaging 10, so solid numbers there. They need to find a second score, a consistent second score to really try to compete. Because when we talk about Notre Dame and Schwabenon and De Pere and even Bayport, I know they lost the game against Schwabenon, but you had a number of guys that were able of putting the ball in the basket consistently. They haven't found that second guy yet, so they're going to have to kind of figure out who that is, and maybe it's a different guy every night, but they got to have some other scoring option other than Steinbecker.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Manitowoc again, one of those schools kind of on not thought about, I guess, really of a basketball school, but it looks like they're gonna try to turn things around there and try to make things happen along with Sheboygan North over there. Those schools along the lakeshore, you don't really think about that much. You got your Sheboygan South, Sheboygan North, and then you got your Manitowoc. In the FRCC, which is always kind of a weird combination, just to have them in a bunch of that group, because I almost feel like they'd be closer to the FVA, given
Yeah,
it is like an hour, a half hour at least to Manitowoc. It's like an hour 20 to Sheboygan, give or take traffic, that sort of thing. But you got to take that old I-43 down there, and that's always a long night for teams traveling from the Green Bay area.
yeah, yeah.
I know it from broadcasting, know it from everything else. But now we'll move on to the team that's actually pretty close to us, Pulaski. The Pulaski Red Raiders, they take down Sheboygan South 77-64. Dom, let's go through some stats.
Yeah, so they're off to a real good start this year, 3-1 overall. They're challenging for the top of the conference so far. Just kind of looking at, a few things here. They don't have a ton of numbers posted, as far as different sources and things like that. But just going through their wins, I mean, Shawano crushed them by what would that be, 25?
Do math.
Menasha,
Do math.
yeah. So
Big books.
Menasha beat them, and then. This was kind of the weird one. 3-point loss to Appleton East at home. Appleton East, not necessarily like you said, a team that you would think about for maybe basketball, but that it could be, especially at home. That's kind of the one that's sticking out to me there. But now they've got this gauntlet where they won at Sheboygan South, but then their next week of games is Monday at West Pier, Tuesday at Preble, Friday at Ashwaubenon, and then Saturday the 28th at Hortonville. That's a tough, tough, tough stretch there with a lot of good teams, a lot of good programs. So um, it's important that they've gotten off to this good of a start because they're going to be on the road a lot, and they're going to be playing a lot of good teams here coming up. But they're currently tied for the conference lead. They're gonna. I would be kind of surprised, and maybe this is harsh, but I'd be kind of surprised if they keep it up to this level. I forget where they finished the year last year. Yeah, they finished the year last year 15-12, so solid, but kind of in middle of the road there,
Still
fourth
below
overall.
500, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean 9-9 in conference is solid, but they're just kind of they're like some of these teams are just kind of going to be battling it out with each other, kind of in the middle of the conference. So this next week will tell us a lot about how serious they are about competing in the FRCC.
Alrighty. So now, Dom, what team has impressed you the most coming into this season, and like, what team has impressed you most out of the gate?
I would say probably Schwamanon, to be
I was gonna
honest.
say Ashwaubenon. Kind of taking me for a surprise too. I didn't. I knew De Pere was good. I knew they were really good, and I didn't really expect Ashwaubenon to be putting up these numbers and getting up so quick. But a big shout out to them. The Jaguars really doing some things. You have any other thoughts on the Jaguars?
Well, it's been so impressive too because they had a coaching change this year. Devontae Banks is the new coach taking over for Coach Tomashik, who was there for such a long time. And this was a team who went 23-5 last year. Really, really good numbers. Obviously, Drew Tomashik is no longer there. Jaden Shane, Jackson Sims. So it's a whole new cast of characters coming in this year with the new coach. And we just talked about, on the hockey side of things with Bayport kind of, di-
Adjusting.
di- adjusting, new coach, new cast of characters having to step it up. And to start this year, they're off to a 4-0 start. They haven't had many bumps in the road. So it'll be interesting to see when that first bump in the road happens and how they respond to it. But, we'll kind of talk about that when we get there because they've impressed me the most. And, they deserve to be at the top of the conference with the way they've played so far.
Yeah, and there is a long season, a lot of winter sports here left to go. Don D'Angelo and I will keep you covered here for the high school crunch time. But now let's move things over to the women's basketball side of things. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for girls basketball. Dom D'Angelo, Johnny Samp, once again, keeping the show rolling here as we make a little transition. Dom, it's been fun, and your Notre Dame girls, they got the big win, 73-30 over Preble. Let's talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, they needed that a big bounce back win there for Notre Dame. The high score was Peyton Musial, who had 23 points, and she was accompanied by Aspen Abel, who had 19. This was an interesting game, an interesting week for them because they lost their first conference game, and I don't know how long it's been. I think it was 68 or 69, something straight victories in conference for Notre Dame until they lost at De Pere 2 Fridays ago. So and they hadn't played a game since. So this was an interesting week. I can imagine Coach Rhodey was probably having a lot of wind sprints run in practice this week, and they responded like good teams do. So they really shut down Preble. It was close in the first half, but then the second half they only gave up 10 points. And Jada Reeder was the high scorer for the Hornets. She had 14 herself. So Notre Dame, it's been an interesting start to the year, 2-2.
Yeah,
They
from a team
lost,
that's dominated for a lot of years.
right? Yeah. So they lost at Pewaukee on opening Thursday, and then they beat Hartford by 20. And Hartford's a really good program. And I think that's kind of when people were like, "Oh, okay, so it's just they're getting things put together back on track here." And then they went to De Pere and lost,
Hmm.
and then they came back and won this past Friday. So it's been an interesting start to the year for them. They have Sheboygan South coming up on Monday, and they're at Manitowoc Lincoln on Friday this week. I don't foresee them having too much of an issue with either of those two teams. But then things start to get a little bit interesting because they are at Hortonville. At Hortonville, they play at the Crest Center as part of a Christmas little tournament thing there. Then they play a Schwabenon, then they're at Bayport. So, it sounds so cliche to say that um, you play the teams on your schedule, but it's the barometer for this team is really kind of tough to judge at this point because seemingly they lost to two really good teams, Pewaukee and De Pere, and then they beat a team that they were supposed to beat, Preble, and then they beat another team who's really good in Hartford. So it's really hard to judge what this team is right now. We know that history tells us that they're going to be really, really good, but they also don't have some of the talent that they've had these past couple of years, and that could maybe rear its ugly head when they start to play, the Hortonvilles of the world, and when they play Tapir again. Bayport's off to a solid start this year, and they play Arrowhead and Kimberly later this year too. So, uh, interesting start. It's going to be an interesting year. There's no question.
So, moving forward, the Bayport Pirates, they beat Ashwaubenon, the Jaguars, in 43-39 score fashion. That, I mean, good for them. I mean, getting off to a good start for that women's team, but obviously, or girls team. I always say women's. I always make that mistake. I was a big women's basketball broadcaster in college, and I really followed it pretty close. I liked watching them. They played more of a team game. But
Yeah.
again, the Bayport Pirates kind of getting off to a good start. It's good to see for them.
Yeah, their two studs, Olivia Williams and Mila Lemerin, each had 17 in the game. So they play defense. They play defense well. They play together, which is I think the best compliment that I can give them. I saw them on opening night against Kakana, and there's a good vibe with this team. 4-3 on the year is a good start for them. 1-1 in conference so far. So they picked up their first conference win against the Jaguars. They dropped their first one against Manitowoc Lincoln. Um, this is another one that I think maybe just took a little bit to find their footing. They got off to a 2-0 start. They experienced some success, and then they hit a little rough patch. They lost three straight. Granted, those three straight were on the road, and then they came back and have won two straight. So they're getting things kind of turned around a little bit. It's nice to see for Coach Lemerin, who's been there for a while. Um, and they should be, they're going to be a player here in the conference. They play Southwest on Tuesday, and then this will be an interesting one
Yeah,
at Tapir on Friday the 20th.
yeah, that'll
So
be a tough one. I mean, De Beer's got a really good squad, and we're gonna talk about him here in a moment.
they
Um,
kind of they kind of remind me of each other because they play. There's not maybe anybody that's going to necessarily wow you on either of those two teams, but they play so well together. They're so well coached. So it's kind of like mirror images of each other in a sense. So that'll be a fun game on Friday.
yeah, and now shifting our tides over here, De Beer beats Southwest 123-8. Um, yeah, not. I mean, clearly no remorse in this one. I don't know who spit in your Cheerios or what happened there. But I was sitting around last night and we were talking to some of the sports guys over at Fox 11. We're like 123-8. I'm like they didn't like pull their starters, just play a passing game, that sort of thing. No, kept going. So a little bit controversial win there, I guess, for De Pere. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, they were really ticked about their loss to Kimberly. Clearly, they
Clearly, they felt like they got
they
disrespected.
or something. Like, again, Kimberly's really good. There's no shame in losing to them. But I mean, it was 81 to nothing at halftime. 81 to nothing at halftime.
Like
So
how do you not let the team put up at least 10, like double digits?
yeah, that's a tough one. I don't want to get into what uh, Coach Boyle was thinking there, what his philosophy was. I
I
don't
just
know
don't
if
know if I could ever feel good about winning by like,
I I don't know if I could either. That'd be a tough one.
yeah,
Yeah,
even uh
it's weird.
just kind of torques a fork in your side. Um,
Yeah, they came back and they beat West Appear today in the battle for the bridge. So, I mean, and that one was 59-52 was the final score there. So it was way less scoring. But I mean, yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. I don't necessarily know how to feel about that one there. To
yeah, a
to be
lot of
honest
head
with you.
scratching, and that's going to be the resolving message there. I think somebody's I don't know if that was quite the right move there, but moving forward, Manitowoc beat Sheboygan North 61-56, and I mean Manitowoc getting the women's side going, getting things going. Their boys team lost to Sheboygan North, and then the women's team takes it and gets the win. So good for them.
Yeah, 6-0 to begin the year for them. So they're riding on high to begin. I think they're actually tied for Tapir. I think they each have two conference wins so far. So yeah, really solid start for them. Few numbers as I'm looking at it here. They keep their opponents pretty low in the scoring column. They're not giving up too much uh, defensively, which is always a good sign. Sarah Bolchin is averaging 21 points. She's a stud. Kendall Schmitz is averaging 14, and Taylor Peterson's averaging 13. So there's your three scores that you need that we were talking about.
You
We
know,
were
they
talking
always
about
had
it
the
earlier.
mythical creature with the three-headed, like snake or whatever.
Yeah,
Dog.
right. Yeah,
Harry Potter, three-headed dog.
yeah,
Um,
that crazy. Yeah, right.
and what was his name? Like Rufus or something. I don't know.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But they got their three scores, which is important, and uh, so they'll be another one to kind of watch out for here in the FRCC because just so far there's not a clear dominant team. I know we just talked about a team scoring 123 points, but there's not
Yeah,
a,
yeah, yeah. I was gonna say that is a tough one to fathom.
yeah. So, but there, just out of the gates here, I don't think there's any clear front runner for who's gonna, maybe pull away from the pack, which like the last number of years you've been able to say, well, it's gonna be Notre Dame, but not this year. And Depew has shown that they can be had, and we'll see what Manitowoc Lincoln's made of here. They've got a Schwabenon coming up this week, and then they host Notre Dame on Friday the 20th. So that'll be kind of the measuring stick to kind of see where they're at with things. But really good start to the year for Coach Garb, and a team that last year was solid. Kind of in the middle again, 13-12 overall. They lost in the regionals, so really good start for them. Then they're gonna need it because they've got a couple tough ones coming up. But if they want to be serious about winning a conference title, this is the year to do it because they're clearly riding the wave up, and everyone's kind of like maybe plateauing a little bit at the top.
Yeah, maybe,
So
maybe
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see who gets it, especially with like the pier and that sort of thing. But finally, Pulaski beats Sheboygan South 51-33. And Pulaski, they're showing their dominance in the basketball court here, winning both against Sheboygan South 77-64 for the boys, and now 51-33 for the girls. So good for them. I mean, what are your thoughts there in Pulaski?
3-4 to start is serviceable. They are 1-1 overall in conference. I'm just looking at their rundown of their schedule here. So they got off to a really tough start, but they found their footing a little bit
No,
recently.
good for the Raiders though.
Gonna say, yeah, yeah, yeah. So definitely nice way to turn around, good way to bounce back, and nice job by Coach Mack over there keeping the ship together, so to speak, and coming up with some wins here. Their stud this year is going to be Olivia Sprangers, who's averaging 14, and they need to find some more help in the scoring column. But defensively they've been pretty solid. Mid 50s to is kind of their average. The one outlier there would be West Depew on opening day, who scored 71 on it. But since then, 53, 55, 38, 54, 31, 33 points given up defensively. That's good. That'll win you games. So if they can just kind of find some more boost offensively, they're gonna be set to go. And just looking ahead at them this week, they've got two home games against Preble and Schwabenon. So they should probably keep things rolling here. I know Preble is 3-3 on the year. I don't think Schwabenon has won a conference game yet. They have not. They're 0-2, but they're 3-3 as well. So it'll be probably, I don't know if pick'em games are necessarily the correct verbiage, but they're both at home, so that's definitely going to favor well for them.
Yeah, and it should make for a fun FRCC season and regular season. Now, Dom, have you had that game that you really enjoyed broadcasting yet for the winter sports season, or is that not yet that not yet hit you?
Uh,
I mean, just this season.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
pretty ripe in the new, but I'm wondering if there's that good call that you got in there. I just want to give before we close things out here.
Yeah, so there was a certain call and there was a sequence that happened. So
Let's hear about it.
two weeks ago, I was doing the De Pere Notre Dame girls game, and Abby Tassel hit a step back three at the buzzer to end the first half, and that pushed the halftime lead to I think like maybe 8 or 9 points for them, and they ended up winning that game, which was kind of the shocker around the Green Bay area for that week there. So that was a good one. And then last night I was doing the Notre Dame boys against Preble, and there was a sequence with Adam Guyette and Andrew Rader where they got out on a fast break, and I think it was Andrew Rader who dunked it.
Yeah, it's
you
always
don't, you
fun to
don't.
get a dunk.
It's fun to get a dunk. So they come back down the other way, and I think it was Guyette who blocked a jump shot. So he went up and he blocked a jump shot. Starts another fast break. He goes down and dunks it. Um, so that was one sequence, and then he came down the other end defensively and he blocked a shot off the backboard. So that was one, and then the very next like couple possessions later, they get out on the break again, and Raider gets a putback dunk on a missed layup. Come back down the other way, they get a steal, and Adam Guyette goes up for a. You don't see dunks often. You don't see one-handed dunks often. So he went up and jams it with one hand. So
There
that
you
was
go. That's
probably
pretty cool.
gonna say that was probably the best sequence of the year so far. It's early,
Yeah.
but that's probably the best sequence that I've had so far.
Well, it's good that you gave those guys a shout out for bringing the high school alive a little bit. I'm sure the
Yeah, it
fans
was good.
erupted. Yeah, I'm sure everything erupted in the field house there at Notre Dame and made things a lot of fun. But signing off for high school sunshine